No. Hey, everybody. Francis Beck, Tom Prince. Welcome into Western New York High School Football Weekly, Week 6 edition. Tom, we had a fantastic week of high school football, including a big game that finally happened. People have been waiting years for. You were there. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. But I'm excited for Week 6, though, too.
Some big games coming up again, and one of those teams we'll be talking about again that was in that big game as Lancaster. Listen, we could say it. Lancaster Canisius was, one that people have been dying for, and like we said the week before, the Sweet Home Willie's matchup, right? Very, very rarely do you say a game is going to be the game of the week, and then it really happens. Well, it happened then, and then it happened again because that Canisius Lancaster game was something to watch. It really was.
Yeah, it was. I think it was overcapacity crowd. People were there.
How about Mary Hall on camera? Did you see him? He got every crowd. He went up and down the crowd. There were people who were going, "Hey, so and so's here. Hey, look at this."
I know. We saw the Dean Adams shot.
Yeah, Dean Adams.
That was priceless.
We saw Hollywood there too with Dean Adams, and one after the other. It was it really was a game to be at. The atmosphere was phenomenal. The teams were phenomenal. The play was phenomenal. There were so many good things, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit.
All right, so if you haven't tuned in yet to the show, here's how we do it. So the first segment, Tom and I go over the top games from Week 5. We talk about what they were, what the stats were from them. Second week, we talk about the top performers. We have several quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers who performed very well. And so we're going to talk about them in segment 2. And then segment 3, we're going to preview this week's games and tell you what's going to be on WNY Athletics this weekend. So we'll get started with a game that we can call an upset. I think one is certainly two upsets.
Well, I think the first two games we're going to talk about were upsets.
Yeah.
When you look at it on paper early on, right? And the first one, no doubt to me, starts off as the Hamburg Sweet Home game, right? Sweet Home, 8-0 lead, and then it's all Hamburg after that. 38 unanswered points right there. Listen, Hamburg has been saying, they said it early on, right, that this was a team that was in the weight room, that was doing all the right things. No doubt that this was a game that they come up big on. And I'll tell you, really, when you look at it from a point of what did they do, the strength of Sweet Home, no doubt, is Theodore. And that's really where they kind of held Theodore a little bit in check here as he runs for 62 yards and a touchdown. Also has 2 receptions for 35 yards. So you think about it, you're holding somebody in check, but he's still getting 100 yards, right? Theodore still does well in the game, but you can see with some of the other things that we talked about, Hamburg comes up big. And really, you've got to give the defense of Hamburg the credit right here, because holding Sweet Home to 8 points with that line, with all those things that Sweet Home brings, I think this is a huge victory right here for Hamburg and a way for them to see if they can get themselves back into the playoff race.
And for Sweet Home, we're going to talk about a little more in our third segment, but it really puts them in a tough situation this week. It's really a must-win game Thursday against McKinley. So our next game, also in the same division, another upset. It was the Kenmore West Blue Devils upsetting the previously unbeaten Williams-the East Flames 30-27. Willies got out to a 13-0 lead at the end of the first quarter, but then the Blue Devils came roaring back. It was a one-score game at the first half, and then they scored 2 touchdowns in the third, Kenmore West, and another one. We believe Kenmore West had about a 10-point lead late in this one. Willie scored, I think under a minute to go. I remember I saw the catch. It was Sansone hits Faison Jr. It actually went off the ball, took one of those crazy bounces off of Atkins and caught it. That's why the score was so close. But Kenmore West had a 2-score lead in this one very late. But Jermaine Atkins was the man. 32 carries, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's just rushing. And then receiving, he also had a catch for 14 yards as well. But it was just at the end of it, it was this Kenmore West offensive line was just pounding Williams-the East. I think I tuned in the finals 2 minutes, and Kenmore West literally ran the exact same play to the right side, I think 4 or 5 plays in a row. Maryland hand off to Atkins to the right side, and they get at least 4 or 5 yards each play. That just shows you how well the offensive line was doing in that one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the two huge games. For those of you who don't realize, right, why that A is so important, two teams out of three different what am I blanking on?
Three divisions?
Divisions, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. So we've got three divisions in A. Two will come out of A1, two will come out of A2, two will come out of A3. Then only two teams from there will get wild card spots into the playoffs. So trust me, you do not want to finish as the third team and possibly a team on the outside looking in right now to the playoffs, which is why these games are all so important. And we said the A was going to be week after week. You better not have a letdown, because the letdown could be the week that knocks you out of the playoffs. So the next game was one of the games that we talked about was it was Lancaster-Canisius, where Lancaster wins 24-20. What a game. It was back and forth. It really was. No doubt that it was led by Micah Harry. 20 carries for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. He bust one of the runs for 70 yards, was one of the ones. He had another great run where you saw he went for about 30 yards, and you saw the shift in the line. He literally got up, shifted in between the line, like barely had an opening, shifted into the opening, and then found a second gear and got into the end zone. Was just unbelievable. And then Stolt to Harrington for a touchdown was unbelievable. The place went nuts, where Stolt actually hits Harrington in the back of the end zone for an incredible pass. And Stoltz goes for 140 yards and a TD in this one, and Harrington 4 receptions, 46 yards and a touchdown. I know, no doubt, that a lot of people wanted to see Harrington get into the mix of that offense again. He was big week 1, comes up big against Canisius, and I'll tell you, that was a great one. But listen, Canisius had some big stats too. You know, Penuchev, went for 212 yards, 3 touchdowns himself. And I'll tell you, 2 of them went to the end zone for about 20, 25 yards. They were darts, right through people into the end zone. He threw a couple darts that were unbelievable. And I'll tell you, one of the other ones, too, was on a 4th and 11 play that he comes down for a touchdown. I'll tell you, it was really good to see them. And Jaden Clark, I thought, was key to the passing right there. He had 2 of the touchdowns for 82 yards. Doctor for 51 yards in this one. Also 4 receptions. And Howard Dolson, 80 yards in this one on the ground. And I'll tell you, he is a beast to be able to handle. He's a very tough runner and really was doing what he can to try to help that team there. This was a great game, came down to the very end. And a couple things in this one, like about halftime, we saw Coach Krasansky get pretty heated. There was a field goal at the end of the first half that some people thought was good, some people thought was wide left, and he didn't like it very much and came out. And it was one that it depended where you were standing. Everybody had an opinion on it.
You know, it's really hard to call field goals from the press box, I have to say, from the sideline. I mean, I don't even look at the kicks anymore. I just look at the referees to see if it was good.
Well, I think any of us do. But it was one of those slashing ones that came from right to left,
right?
Whether
it turned before
whether it
or
got
after.
it. So that was what everyone was going nuts about. And again, they'll say some people over on this side thought it was good. People over here didn't. It just depended where you stood. But it was had everything you wanted and more in this one. It was a great game as both teams step up big. Lancaster gets the win.
All right, we're going to go down to C South for our next game. Southwestern in a back and forth affair defeated Salamanca 15-10 to momentarily take first place in the Class C South Division. Look at this one. Low scoring game for Southwestern, but really leading the way was actually was quarterback Jamison Wall, 7 for 11, 99 yards. And then they had 3 running backs all put up decent yardage. Jamison Walsh led the way, 12 carries, 41 yards of TD. Sam Arrington Jr., 7 carries, 32 yards of TD. Matt Panis, 16 carries, 31 yards. It looks like the Salamanca defense keyed in on Panis because he's had a great year, and it was Walsh and Arrington Jr. really stepped up, and that was enough. But I think really the defense for Southwestern, Jesse Stallman was one of the top rushers in Section 6 right now. last week, 12 carries, 25 yards. So I mean that's a shout out. That's huge props to that Trojans defense. He's a very good running back, and they stopped him for 25 yards in that one. But back and forth affair. Southwestern takes early control of the C-South division. We'll talk about more of their game coming up this week, which is pretty important. But C-South starting to shape up playoff picture-wise.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be a big game, and the winner of that's going to put themselves in a very good position. We're going to go to a non-conference game, which I thought was absolutely incredible. Scoreboards got lit up in this one. Medina, East Aurora, Holland. I'll tell you what, a game came down to 2-point conversions in this one. Medina wins this one 37-36. They're led by their running back. I cannot say this enough. And I'm going to tell you, he's been doing it for years now. Noah Skinner, again, comes up big, 193 yards, 5 touchdowns in this game. So literally, think about that. 5 touchdowns, 37 points. Those ball points come from him running the ball at 193 yards. And not only that, he adds 12 tackles to the mix, doing just as much on defense as he is on offense. I'll tell you, this kid is the real deal, folks, and he's one of the big reasons why Medina is standing in top of that C division. Now, East Aurora Holland, very good B team right here. They come up big. They light up the scoreboard. Did not get some of the credit they deserve. Max Fryer right now goes QB, 259 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns, and then he carries the ball 20 times for 97 yards, gets a touchdown. He's got 5 touchdowns himself. He's got the offense right there for East Aurora Holland, humming right there. But has a huge receiver. William Mersman goes 9 receptions, 165 yards, 3 touchdowns. Lux Feigl goes for 3 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. And Dylan Austin goes for 4 receptions, 28 yards in this one. This was an absolute shootout. Was fun to watch, you know what I mean, for the people that were there. And no doubt, to me, was a nice test for Medina, right? What they were looking for is they went up in the division, and it was a good test for East Aurora Holland. As you see, they've been in all their games, right? Was tied with Cheektowaga right there. Was, took their last game, I want to say there was Cheektowaga, and then they beat Dunkirk. They had Falconer, Casadega, Maple Grove. It was close at one point, right? They've been in all their games. They really have. Just unfortunately haven't been able to close out, and it's been the second half for the other team. But I'll tell you, it was tied with Cheektowaga. They ended up losing. This game was back and forth. East Aurora had a lead. Medina takes a lead back, and then East Aurora Island comes running back. Give them credit, I'll tell you. But a nice win for Medina. And again, do not forget the name, Noah Skinner.
All right, next game, a pretty important B2 battle. It's Maryville keeping their undefeated record, 13-7 winners over Falconer, Casadega Valley, Maple Grove. This one was on our air on Friday night. Maryville comes out, gets a 13-0 lead in the first half. Falconer does score late in the third. I was talking with Jay Fike, who was calling the game. Falconer had a couple chances down by the goal line to score, but it really was that Maryville defense put on a show. They held Dalton Caldwell to 82 yards on 15 carries. The defense was spectacular. Meanwhile, on offense, it was the Justice Hill show. He had 21 carries, 117 yards, both touchdowns. He also made a catch for 8 yards. And then on defense, he had 10 tackles and 3 sacks. So Justice Hill puts together another fantastic game. And right now, Maryville controls that Class B2 division.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, but you got to give this Falconer, Casadega Valley, Maple Grove team credit. They've been in every game too, right? They really are, with a big win over Olean too. And it's a battle for the playoffs right here. That brings us to our next game, which is Cheektowaga Olean, right? And to be honest with you, I said to you going into this week, we didn't really talk about, we did off air, where I said the loser of this game could be putting themselves in a very rough spot when it comes to playoffs. Top 4 teams in the division right now are playing it out. This, to me, was a big game for both teams to be able to give them a shot at the playoffs. And I'll tell you, like I keep saying, you never want to face Olean when it comes that time. It seems like they may have a couple games early on where there's a hiccup early on, but watch out as they start coming on strong.
And keep in mind, they have a freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
So you imagine, probably early in the season, he's still getting his legs under him. Now that he has it, it makes sense why they're getting better.
Yeah. So Olean wins this one 28-20 as they got to actually host Cheektowaga. Warburton again, another big game, 158 yards and a touchdown. Matt Barr throws for 116 yards and a touchdown in this one. And Lamario Jones with a reception and 66 yards and a touchdown. Defensive led by Angel McIntosh with 12 and a half tackles in this one. But Olean, right now, we had actually a Conley Cup nomination come out of here for Cade Anastasia. He has 3 receptions for 48 yards and a touchdown, and defensively has 5 tackles. This is another big reason. 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. Comes up big on the defensive side of the ball for Olean. And you said the freshman quarterback goes for 79 yards and a touchdown. Memphis App goes for 26 carries and 88 yards and a touchdown. Ryan Eisenberg also carries the ball 12 times for 50 yards. To me, right now, you put Olean into one of those spots right now with that win. And it now becomes to where this game, to me, that we're going to be talking about later on, Cheektowaga Albion, could really be a must-win for Cheektowaga right here to be able to get into those playoffs.
All right, next game, another game with big playoff implications. It was Lackawanna defeating Eden North Collins 26-7. Don't let that final score fool you. This game was pretty close until the end. Lackawanna jumps out to a 6-0 lead, or actually 14-0 lead. But Eden scores late before the half. A fantastic catch by Billy Yan. This kid, everybody talks about Matt Sweet, which he did a phenomenal job, but Billy Yan is the unsung hero for this Eden North Collins team. He had 2 receptions, 35 yards, a touchdown. He was also big on defense. I believe he had 2.5 tackles, an interception. He also ran the ball as well. This Eden North Collins team, they stuck to their running game. They were able to move the ball a little bit, but this Lackawanna defense was able to stop them. And then it came down, actually, we know about Billy Geschel, who did a fantastic job, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. But it was really this running game led by Antoine Threets. He had 116 yards. And then Amir Douglas, who barely used all season. But this game, he has 12 carries for 99 yards and scores 2 touchdowns. I believe he's a sophomore. So Lackawanna humming pretty well.
You also had what you felt was one of the catches of the year in that game.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that. Justin Page on the first touchdown makes this unbelievable one-handed catch in the end zone. Keep in mind, it was 4th and 13.
Oh, another big reason. Okay.
Yeah. 4th and 13 makes this unbelievable catch. That's actually the first score of the game. It almost got on SportsCenter. I don't think it didn't quite make the cut, but it was definitely on their radar.
I think it was because it was a Saturday game, and you're competing against every single college game that's out there. And
high school, yeah.
You know what I mean? So definitely tough to be able to make that cut, but obviously a great catch. We're going to finish off this first segment with CSP Portville. I've been telling everyone, watch out. Portville's looking to make a statement, right? They do in this one, where late in this third quarter, this game was 2-0. This game was 2-0 in the third quarter, led by Portville. Portville comes up with a big win as they win this one 9-3. And it was 9-0 after the third. The field goal by CSP was kicked in the fourth quarter. Holcomb for Portville leads the way with 61 yards. Drew Langdon, their quarterback, goes for 101 yards. And Xander Kime carries the ball for 11 carries, 28 yards. He has their lone touchdown in this one. And then on the flip side, Tate Catanese throws the ball for 175 yards in this one. Trent Burchanowski goes 10 carries, 69 yards. And then leading the way in the air for CSP is Braden Hayes, 3 receptions for 81 yards. And a name we know and love, no doubt, Bryce Hinsdale, 8 receptions for 67 yards. As Portville comes up with what I say is a big win for them, as they've been really trying to prove why they are one of the top small schools in Western New York.
All right, that'll do it for our first segment. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the top individual performances of Week 5. You are watching Western New York High School Football Weekly on WNY Athletics.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com, ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are and how to reach them. Get started today at howardhanna.com.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
Avoiding care can lead to worse problems. Don't delay care. We're here for you. Western New York Immediate Care provides quick, quality care for non-emergent injuries and illnesses. Go to WNYImmediatecare.com for more information.
School Football Weekly, Week 6 edition. Francis Beck, Tom Prince, and we're going to talk about some of the best individual performances of Week 6. First, we're going to get started with the Connolly Cup nominees. Keep in mind, Connolly Cup, we do release them on our page. We do help distribute, but Western Athletics does not play a role in choosing the weekly nominees. So here they are. So we have Dion Anderson from St. Joe's, Cade Anastasia from Olean, Jermaine Atkins, Kenmore West, Trevor Berry, Iroquois, Chris Bergman, Akron, Mason Forney, Kenmore West, Micah Harry, Lancaster, Xander Hind, Randolph, Xander Kime, Portville, Jeffrey Lavelle, Hamburg, Jaden Lewis, Bennett, Noah Skinner, Medina, Max Stolt, Lancaster, Doug Washington, Burgard, and Noah Willoughby from South Park.
We got to see Doug Washington, too, right? He really took the game over towards that overtime, late in the game in overtime, where he did come up big in that game. Here's our Trench Trophy Award winners. Matt Cash from Fredonia, Isaiah Collins from South Park, Xavier Goodman with Bennett, Aiden Matthias for Hamburg, Mitch Pike for Southwestern, Evan Stencil with Lancaster, and Chris Williams with St. Joe's. And again, please remember, that is a senior-only award. To be nominated, you must be a senior for that one. And then at the end of the season, they will name a top 10 that will go onto a banquet that will be seniors. And then there will be some juniors invited for the junior award, where they'll get a chance to possibly be honored in that one. And I'll tell you, one of the juniors I'm sure we're going to see there, Marcus Harrison out of St. Francis, as he gets another Division I offer. He got Syracuse offered, and he's also now got Rutgers offered. Two big offers for the lineman.
Yes, we wish him best in that. So now we're going to talk about some of the best individual performance. Some of those guys who we mentioned got Connolly Cup nominations. We're going to start with Jermaine Atkin. Here's the reason why he got nominated. We mentioned before, Kenmore West gets the upset win over Williamsville East. Atkins goes 32 carries, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had a catch for 14 yards as well. I do want to point this out. So, we just mentioned 261 yards this week against Will East. Last week, he has 238 yards receiving. How many players can you say 1 week put a 200-plus receiving, and the next week 200-plus rushing? That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I agree. Just shows how versatile he is, too. So our next player we're going to talk about comes out of Iroquois. Trevor Berry against Pioneer puts up 248 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 27-6 win against Pioneer.
All right, next player is Caleb Nicholas from Amherst. He had 20 carries, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns in a 36-6 win over Grand Island. He also caught the ball twice for 25 yards and had 5 tackles on defense.
Here's the man I love to talk about. Noah Skinner out of Medina does it again, 193 yards, and he's got 5 touchdowns this one, 15 touchdowns on the season. He's averaging 10.3 yards a carry. He's an absolute beast, and he leads the way for Medina.
All right, DJ Leonard, the junior from Williamsville North, had a bit of a coming out party. 15 carries, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. As Williamsville North defeats Lockport 59-43. He also had 3 catches for 75 yards. All of them were touchdowns. And then on defense, he had 2 tackles as well. So that's DJ Leonard from Williamsville North.
Next one comes from Frontier. We've got Cole Barber in his game against Niagara Wheatfield in their win. For Frontier's win 34-14. He goes for 167 yards and 4 touchdowns in this one as he has a day for Frontier in their win.
Cameron Borburn, believe it or not, this is a season low. 158 yards and 20 carries and a touchdown in a 28-20 loss against Olean.
Next one comes from Tonawanda as Alexander Gallo comes up against Newfane in a loss. Newfane wins 26-25 in a great one, but Alexander Gallo has 149 yards and a touchdown in this one. He also had 3 catches for 15 yards in the loss to Newfane.
All right, our next one is, I'm trying to pull up Kyle Stover from Pioneer. He had 148 yards and 1 touchdown in a 27-6 loss against Iroquois.
Next one brings us down to Randolph as Randolph defeats Gowanda Pine Valley 54-6 in this one. He goes for 144 yards. 73 yard is the longer. He's got 3 touchdowns in this game. He also catches the ball once for 85 yards for a touchdown. Xander Hine has right now 4 touchdowns in this one. He's got 11 on the season, and that's with having to not play a game against Frewsburg where it was a forfeit win for Randolph.
Brady Calhoun and the Clarence Red Devils seem to be getting better each week as we go. Calhoun, 144 yards and 9 carries, 3 touchdowns on the ground, and then he also caught two passes for 26 yards as well. So that's Brady Calhoun and the Red Hot Red Devils.
And right now, as you see, the next one we're going to talk about is Micah Harry from Lancaster. As Lancaster does the gauntlet for the next 3 weeks. They already played Canisius, has got the win. They're now going to go against Bennett next week or this coming week, and then Orchard Park after that. So 3 big games right in a row. No doubt that Canisius game gets him in the way to start that run, and he does it with 140 yards and 2 touchdowns for Lancaster.
Jason Green, they brought him in to be a quarterback, but he last week, and he's caught the ball, but this past week they had him run the ball against Kenmore East. He runs for 139 yards, a touchdown on 14 carries. He also made a catch as well in this one and caught a touchdown in a 36-22 win over the Bulldogs.
I actually thought that was key because he actually ran the ball. He actually threw the ball, and he actually passed the ball on this one.
You don't see that very often.
You really don't. But he absolutely did something big in this one for them. So our next one is Larry Bergen from Cleve Hill, as he has 3 touchdowns again against Roy Hart Barker Lindenville in Cleve Hill's win 54-14. He also goes for 110 yards in this one with his 3 touchdowns for a big win for Cleve Hill.
We talked about him right at the start. Deion Anderson gets a Connolly Cup nomination after he has an all-around day. 5 carries, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He also catches a pass for 57 yards and a touchdown as well, and contributing on defense with 5 tackles. So Deion Anderson from St. Joe's.
So now we're going to go to the quarterbacks. Leading the way for the quarterbacks, we're going to go to Orchard Park as Ben Gasella throws the ball 13. He goes 13 for 18, 305 yards, and 6 touchdowns in this one as he leads the way for Orchard Park.
All right, our next one is Noah Willoughby. I'm going to try to bring up his I'm on the wrong website. That's why this isn't coming up. Noah Willoughby is off to a great start this season, leading passer in all of Section 6. And this past week, he puts up another great game. It's actually a bounce-back game, if you think about it. He had 278 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was bouncing back from a 209-yard effort last week.
Which still were wins, right? Man, I know Noah will take that win every single time. Noah absolutely comes up big. And right now leading the way in yardage, overall yardage, as the quarterback in Section 6. And it's 3 great quarterbacks. Willoughby, then Casella, then Drake right now is your top 3 quarterbacks sitting right there. But the next one we're going to go to is the East Aurora Holland. Max Fryer right here as he comes up big again. We talked about him. But listen to this, folks. He passes for 259 yards. He's got 4 touchdowns passing. And then he rushed the ball for 97 yards and has a touchdown and has 5 touchdowns for the East Aurora Holland team.
Trey Drake had another great week. He actually broke the Jamestown passing record, a career passing record with 222 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 54-0 win over Niagara Falls.
You know, you said that, and I wanted to look up something real quick because I wanted to.
Actually, and we're going to have a story on that, a special extra feature in the Western New York Football Report magazine, which is coming out tomorrow.
So,
you're not going to wait till wide receivers to do that?
It's not wide receivers. There's a quarterback one. So, in Week 5, 3-year starter and team captain Ben Gasella broke the OP school passing TD record. So he had passed for 62 touchdowns in his OP career. So there was a passing one that was also broken in this game. We are going to talk about some receiving ones, but Ben Gasella also had the passing TD record.
All right, so I'm going to have to make another addition to the magazine.
I got you. You thought you had me there, didn't you? So the next one we're going to go to is Chris Bergman out of Akron as he throws the ball for 220 yards and 5 touchdowns in this one. And then, by the way, runs for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's got 8 touchdowns in this one as Akron defeats Cardinal O'Hara 59-20.
All right, close one Thursday night out in Tonawanda. Nate Snow was the man. 16 of 26, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns as he leads the Panthers to their first win of the season, 26-25 over Tonawanda.
So we're going to go back to that Lancaster game as our quarterback there for Canisius. We got Nicholas Penduchev, goes for 212 yards, 3 touchdowns in this one, and he just really, like I talked about, pinpoint, really hit some receivers right with a gun right down the barrel right there when you looked at it, because it was literally, he had windows that were like this big that he was fitting in the end zone and came up big and really kept Canisius in that game.
Sophomore Caden Overcamp threw for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 36-22 win over Kenmore East. We talked about his running back earlier, Jason Green, doing everything. Caden Overcamp does his job, only a sophomore. 168 yards against Kenmore East. They have Star Point this week on Friday night, and Will South is right now in the thick of it in the playoff race in Class A3.
So our next one's going to go to St. Joe's as we recognize Aaron Jensen this one. They won 41-7 over St. Mary's. He throws the ball for 129 yards and 3 touchdowns in this one. He also runs the ball for 50 yards and has a big day in the 41-7 win over St. Mary's.
All right, Dylan Reifenberg not asked to do much as far as throwing the football, 8 of 12, but he gets 113 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, and he also runs for a touchdown. So 3 total touchdowns in a 48-6 win over North Tonawanda.
And the next one comes from Franklinville, Ellicottville, as we recognize Gian Nuzzo as he comes up big in this one. Passing-wise, he throws for 47 yards, only throws the ball 6 times, completes 3 of them, but he does it on the ground for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns in their 28-6 win over Frewsburg. And there we go for the quarterbacks. We're on to the wide receivers.
All right, I am trying to get our first guy here. Do you know who our first guy is?
Yep. Our first guy comes from Donnie Creer of Akron. as he catches the ball for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns in that win over Cardinal O'Hara.
All right, our next one, the man we mentioned, Dylan Evans. He broke two school records this week. He caught 137 yards, 3 touchdowns. He breaks the all-time Orchard Park receiving touchdowns and receiving yards this week in a 42-0 win over Hutch Tech.
31 receiving touchdowns he's had in his career and 1,685 receiving yards he's had in his career. And that's a dang good career for high school, I'll tell you that. Our next one actually goes to East Aurora, Holland, where William Mersman has the day right there. He comes up big where he catches the ball for 9 catches, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns for East Aurora, Holland in that 37-36 loss to Medina.
All right, our next one is going to be Jameer Thomas from Bennett. There he is. He only had 1 catch for 70 yards, but I think in the second half they put him in at quarterback. He goes 4 for 9, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns throwing. He also caught a touchdown, so 3 touchdowns, including 2 of them throwing. So a little bit he tries to channel his inner Jason Green there and puts on a good showing for the Bennett Tigers as they get their 62-0 win over Maritime.
And our last one comes from that Canisius-Lancaster game as Jaden Clark actually goes 7 receptions for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns for Canisius. And those are our recognition for some individual performances.
Yeah, so a lot of great performances this past week. I'm sure we'll have a lot more coming up next. We're going to preview some of the big games happening in Week 6. Yeah, lots of playoff implications, some important games happening next week. You're watching Western New York High School Football Weekly on WNY Athletics.
Our homes have become offices, gyms, schools, and playgrounds. And at Western New York Immediate Care, we know you may need us now more than ever. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care physicians are trained to diagnose and treat most non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses. With 5 convenient locations open 7 days a week, help is never far away. Life has changed, but Western New York Immediate Care is still here for you.
I love being home.
There's nothing better than owning the perfect house to come home to. You've earned it, and we'll make it happen. Our local real estate experts and in-house team of financial professionals make buying or selling your home simple. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
I love being home.
Football Weekly, Francis Beck, Tom Prince. We're going to preview some of the top games of this Week 6, and then we're going to be talking about who our Freak of the Week is at the end of the show. So, Tom, we're going to start Thursday night. This game is going to be on our air. It's a big one. It's McKinley at Sweet Home. Major playoff implications in this one.
You know, we already talked about that we didn't want to make sure that we saw – right, a game that could throw you out, right? But McKinley right now is leading the way at 3-0 inside their league. They're 5-0 overall. Sweet Home right now sitting at 2-3 overall, but 2-2 inside their division. McKinley's got some big games that are coming up. There's no doubt, right? They've got Sweet Home and Hamburg Willys. That's the gauntlet for them right there, right? But Sweet Home has got to get a win if they think they're going to stay in this playoff hunt right now and they get a chance to get one of those possible games right there. Because what you're looking for is for that to get jammed up right now and to get some tiebreaker options out there. And to do it, this is game number 1. And I'll tell you, I said it all along. I go back to the game I saw against them in Orchard Park. You've heard about 2 games right now where they've fallen apart for just a short period of time, but in that short period of time have given up over 20 points both times. That's something they've got to clean up a little bit right here, but this one should be a true smash mouth football game. And I'll tell you, this should really be one that I'm glad we're gonna be at, because I think it's gonna be one of the games of the week.
Yeah, I think you're talking about a McKinley team which has run the table, but they certainly faced some tests in terms of Kenmore West had a lead on them at one point, and they were just in a one-score game with West Seneca West. So we'll see as they face what we think are one of the top teams in their division, how they fare out. Our next game, similar implications, Frontier versus Jamestown. This Frontier team, 2 losses already on the season. They really can't afford a third or they're out of it, but they're going to have a tough task against a Jamestown team which has been rolling the past few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be, should be another great game. If you remember last year, they played a great game right here. See how good the Jamestown team is as they take on another good opponent in Frontier. But the question will be is, can Drake get slowed down right here? Does he have the game that he's going to have? This will be a must-win for Frontier. And if Jamestown wants to get, so they've got home field advantage going through Jamestown, another big win that they must have.
All right, another big game with playoff implication, Class C South. Salamanca, we mentioned this past week, beats Fredonia. Now Fredonia has a chance last week. Now Fredonia has a chance to face Southwestern, who just beat Salamanca. Trojans standing at 3-0. Fredonia 2-1. Trojans with the win can clinch the division, but Fredonia can win, and they're still they would still be in the mix to win C South as well.
Yeah, but again, now you need this win though. What do you want? You want everybody to come to the Orange Bowl is what you want, right? You want that home field advantage on your field. To do that, it must be a win right here, so that you can absolutely help make that home field advantage happen.
All right, next game, another game with major playoff implications. It's Cheektowaga Albion, and this is, I think, what you call must-win for Cheektowaga. Pretty close to it.
We were looking at it, right? Because if Cheektowaga loses to Albion and Maryville, right, because Maryville is going to be another tough game for them. Not saying it's going to happen. I'm not giving anybody a win. But if that were to happen, it could be Cheektowaga looking on the outside in right here, where you've really got to come up big right here, because it could be a must-win for you to get into the playoffs right here. As we're already seeing pretty much 5 teams that are going to battle for those spots right here. And if anybody thinks right now that East Aurora Holland's also an easy win for anybody, you're crazy, because they are playing very good football right now themselves. But think about this. You've got Maryville sitting at 3-0, Cheektowaga at 2-1, Falconer, Cassadaga, Maple Grove at 3-2, Olean at 3-2, Albion is sitting at 2-2. So that's why I said is one of these 2 teams with a loss could be that team outside looking in. I think it's a must-win for both teams.
And we mentioned earlier, Olean got the win over Cheektowaga, which is key that they have that head-to-head. All right, our next game is Bennett versus Lancaster. This game has been fantastic. This is one of the top games of the year, seemingly for the past, 3 years, maybe 4.
4 years? I don't know if it's that far.
Okay, maybe 3 years. We think this is going to be a little we know Bennett is one of the powerhouses of this year. They seem to be stacked better than ever. But Lancaster, we mentioned, gets that win over Canisius. You got to think they have a little confidence after that one.
Oh, absolutely. You know that they probably absolutely have some confidence. And when wouldn't you have confidence if you were a Lancaster team, right? You should have the confidence. Your team is going to be ready to play. Your coaches are going to have you ready to play. And this Bennett team, folks, they are for real. I'll tell you, I've said it all along. I thought the 2 best lines in Western New York go to Bennett and St. Francis. To me are the 2 right now, the 2 teams, because of those lines right there. This is going to be a great game. The question is, will that line be able to open up some holes to let Micah Harry do what he needs to do to run the ball? And then the same thing, can this defense, which is absolutely a top defense, right? That is what Lancaster, this team is known for, is their defense. Can they come up big and stop all the weapons that Bennett has? That's exactly why we're going to see this game. This should be a great one right here. This really should be. And I'll tell you, the winner of this game could be the team that we now sit atop of the polls by themselves with a win.
All right, then our next game, it's a non-league one, but we think it's going to be a good measuring stick for both teams. It's going to be Williamsville hosting Orchard Park. Remember, North played Lancaster, another barometer test. They lost 21-0. Now they have an Orchard Park team coming off that win over Lockport last week and just before a big game against Clarence in Week 7.
So, to me, is this game is look at the two teams, right? Lancaster and Jamestown that they played, right, with the like opponents. And to me, Will North played both teams very, very strong, right? So same thing should happen right here. Will North, again, has that big line that we've been hearing about, that this is a line that is why we're hearing about these running backs doing so well at Will North. That's because of the testament of that line and how good they are. So the question is, can Orchard Park stop the run? Because that will be, the top thing for Will North. That doesn't mean Will North can't pass the ball. Yes, we notice. We notice the quarterback starting to come on strong. I get it, right? But then you're going to have to, can Will North stop the passing attack that you're going to see come to you from Orchard Park? It should be a great game. Look at the Battle of the Trenches. I think the trenches are going to be key to this one. Can one stop the other? Strength is going to be the key.
All right, our last game of the weekend, 2 o'clock on Western New York Athletics Saturday. It's a non-league affair. Niagara Wakefield at Kenmore West. It's a non-leaguer, but I think for Kenmore West, you enter in a weird part of your schedule because your only league game left is North Tonawanda. That's in 2 weeks. So you're kind of through your gauntlet, so to speak. So it's going to be interesting how they approach these next 2 games. Of course, they have Kenmore East, which they'd be silly
to overlook. That's a rivalry game. You
Yeah.
never overlook that one. And I'm telling you right now, we got to see Johnny Haynes at that one because he's better have something special for us prepared with that team. And I already said to him, because I'm going to be on color for this game at Ken West and Niagara Wheatfield, Coach Haynes, you better have something prepared because I want to see the pregame, and the pregame better be good. I'll tell you that right now. But no, this is still a great game, right? You got a good quarterback, a very good quarterback over there at Niagara Wheatfield, right? That we're seeing sling the ball over the place. A new coach that's trying to change that program right now. And again, you've got Ken West focus right now that's trying to get one of those spots and clinch a spot for the playoffs for them. And they got to make sure they're ready for that game, which will be big against North Tonawanda.
And you know what? If you're Niagara Wakefield, this is a perfect opportunity to possibly take advantage of a team that could be sleeping. They know there's no league implications. They're coming off that big upset win over Williamsville East. If there was any chance for an upset here, you have a chance if you're Niagara Wakefield. I mean, this is a perfect. This will be an opportunity to really, you mentioned new coach Eric O'Brien, to really hang your head on as you build this program. You're going to get a win over this hot Kenmore West team.
Yep, no doubt. This is good. It should be a fun game. Really should be. That's why we're going to it.
All right, coming up. All right, now we go to our Freak of the Week, and there were a bunch of guys in the running. I don't want to go to them.
No doubt. So let's talk about them, right? Skinner could have been in the running, right? Barry could be in the running, right? Casella could have been in the running. Evans could have been in the running. Crare could have been in the running. Fryer could have been in the running. Drake could have been in the running. Willoughby could have been in the running, right?
We had Jason Green, who did a passing, rushing, and I think he caught a few balls as well.
We had guys that had huge days. They really are. We just thought there was one that had.
Bergman. Did we mention Bergman?
No, but it's another one.
Bergman, I think, what do you have, 500 yards of offense in a single game against that was against Cardinal Harris. So Chris Bergman for Akron, he had over 500 yards in a single game.
And 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, and 8 touchdowns.
Right? Just unbelievable the day that he had. And it's always, you can go back and forth, and it's always, we're kind of nitpicking a little bit for these ones. But everyone that was at this game, everyone that saw this highlight said, this Jermaine Atkins is the real deal. That's why our Freak of the Week has got to go to Jermaine Atkins this week of Kenmore West. 32 carries, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns in this one. He comes up both defensively and offensively in this one. He was all over the field. You already said it. A kid that goes for 268 yards by running, then does it by the air the next game, shows his versatility, shows how good he really is, and why he is our Freak of the Week.
All right, so that will do it for our show. For Heidi Gunther, our producer, Tom Prince, I'm Francis Beck. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in this next week. We have Tune in this weekend, McKinley Sweet Home, Frontier Jamestown, Fredonia Southwestern, and then Kenmore West Niagara Weekfield this weekend. Schedules coming out on social media very soon. But for all of us here at Western New York Athletics, thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned in all season long.
Life can be full of surprises, but not always the good kind. That's why we're committed to providing safe, quick, and cost-effective care, and we keep it simple. Just walk in. We're here for you. Learn more today.
With exclusive buyer insights and our 100% money-back guarantee, we're confident we'll find buyers for your home. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.